Hello and welcome to the Single Muslim Peeps Podcast. My name is Taz. I'll be your host today. And guys, we have an amazing special guest today.
Hi, Taz. I am Sophia. And actually, we should tell them the story as to how we met. It's an
Yes,
interesting
yeah,
story.
very, very interesting and random.
It is
And I
very
was, I
random.
was, I was low key suspicious, but yeah, we'll get
Yeah.
into that. So I got a message of somebody on Reddit because that's where this whole thing sort of started. So yeah, I received a message from Sophia. Prior to that, I don't think we've really had any communication, did we?
I'd seen you like post here and there, and I'm like, oh, this girl's perspective. I like that. So
Thank
yeah, I kind of
you.
would see you post, and then I think that's kind of where I was like, yo, let me just send her a message real quick. Yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah. So I received your message and I was a little bit suspicious. I was like, who's this and why are they messaging? But it was a lovely, lovely message, and basically you just sort of reached out and we kind of started from there, didn't we?
We did. Yeah, we kind of hit it off. And then I was like, Taz, do you want to just like video call and talk? And then I was like, yo, it'd be a really great idea if we started like a podcast or something. And so Taz took that idea and ran with it. So I love
Yeah.
that. So it's been really great from there.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
had been meaning to do the podcasting, and I think your message really sort of encouraged me because I was a little bit hesitant about getting it
Mhm.
started. I wasn't sure where to start. I'm not exactly the most sort of techie savvy, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
Not massive on social media or anything like
No, I
that.
feel you. Same. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so it was like, yeah, it was that kind of push. Your message was that little push to be like,
Oh
look,
my God,
just
you're so sweet. Honestly, you've been doing so well, like especially like your first couple, like have been so great. And I'm like, yo, this could really go off. So like keep going at it. And I feel like if anything, I think a lot of times when we first start something, we're so, and especially within social media, atmosphere and space that we're in these days, we're so focused on the numbers. It's sort of
yes,
like, oh my God, if I'm not getting like a lot of engagement and 100,000 or like all these likes and people are giving me all this feedback, then I can't do it anymore. This is so cringe. It's so awkward. I never want to do it again. But I think like the message that you kind of put out there, and even if like just that message reaches one or two people that are like, whoa, this has actually been super helpful for me. Like I had no idea about this or whatever. And you maybe you're helping out someone in some way, like that is like the biggest difference. So just keep
yeah,
at it, you know what I mean? And if anything, having that kind of outlook will keep you being a bit more persistent and consistent with it.
inshallah,
Yeah,
inshallah. I
inshallah.
really do hope so. I mean, that I've mentioned it before on the previous podcasts. Um,
Mhm.
the whole reason for me doing this is just to help people out there.
Mhm.
Mainly because, like, from my own experience when I first started on the apps and getting myself out there looking for so-called quote unquote potential.
Yeah, right. Quote
Yeah,
unquote.
what do you call them? What do you call them?
I don't know. And everyone has an issue with a certain way that you call them. Like some people are like, don't call them prospects, don't call them potentials, don't call them usernames, don't call them all this. I'm like, what do we call them? They're just like people that we
People,
might potentially get married to. But yeah,
exactly.
I know. Yeah.
So yeah, when I first sort of started, there wasn't really much content out there or information out there regarding, like, look, this is what you
No.
should expect. These are the
Mhm.
safety aspects, etc., etc. And I guess that's the main reason, to kind of like guide and help people out there, just to get them started. And
Mhm.
if even if I help
And
one
warn them
person,
and give
huh?
them some warning tips.
Absolutely. Oh my
You know what
God.
I mean? Yeah, because I feel like I also jumped into the whole online platform. Kind of, I guess, like like during a time too, similar to you, where it was like not a lot of people around me were using it. And if anything, it was very stigmatized. I feel like it still is stigmatized,
It
given,
is. It is.
even though we're in like a pandemic sort of atmosphere where like this is probably the new normal now of how people meet. But even like then, like before then, it was a lot more stigmatized, and like my parents were really scared. They're like, you're just gonna meet someone off the
Mm.
internet. That sounds so weird. But I'm like, how else am I gonna put myself out there? I'm like, there's not many avenues for me, currently where I'm living, to meet someone, say at the masjid, or even close contacts, or like even family members that might know someone. So I'm like, okay, I don't really have an option, so I'm just gonna try the internet and see where it takes me. It took me places, good
I bet
and
it did.
bad.
I bet it did.
Right, just for you as well, it takes you some really interesting places, and we'll talk about some of those stories, I'm guessing, later on.
Yeah, definitely.
but
Inshallah, we'll delve into that for
but
sure.
yeah, but I feel like with the internet, it's like, and these online apps and all those kind of things, I think it's like interesting because it's like a double-edged sword. It's like you learn a lot about yourself, which is great, right? You can take those lessons and apply them to yourself, and then whoever you end up meeting, down the line, or just in the future about yourself and who you are. But then it also is bad because you go through these like really weird experiences that like sometimes are firsthand, right? Because like us as Muslims, we don't date. We don't
No, we
really
don't.
do that kind of dating thing.
But you're magically supposed to find somebody.
I know, right? Oh my God, that's the $1 million question. What is going on? Yeah. So it's really funny that like our parents, when we're younger, they're like focused on, especially as women, right? Focus on school, your education, become independent.
Don't talk to boys.
Don't talk to men, right? Don't talk to boys.
Yeah.
They're all trouble, blah, 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 blah. And then you like graduate, you're like in your 20s, 20, 21 or 22. And they're like, so when are you going to get married? Where are you going to find us a husband? You're like, I don't know how to talk to a man. I don't even know what I want.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's really interesting. It's like an interesting experience that you kind of, you go through in your 20s where you're just like, I don't know what's going on. But
you just sort of have to, I guess you just have to try whatever way you can. And like you, I mean, there was a lot of stigma in terms of like my parents and, trying to get them on board. My dad totally rejected it to begin with, because it was like, no, that's not the way you meet people, because traditionally it was completely different. Even though like my parents aren't overly traditional, they actually met at a wedding party of all places.
Oh, did they? Oh
yeah,
my God,
did.
that's so cute.
I know, it's adorable. It's like, I want that, please.
I know, right? You're like, where can I find my dude at this wedding? Yeah.
So but basically it was like, no, and my mom was like highly suspicious of like people and stuff. But I'll tell you something, my mom had, even though she hadn't used apps and like to find a husband and what have you, but she knew what she was talking about in terms of people and the dangers of what could be and what could be out there. But yeah,
it's understandable. Like I totally understand when our parents are like, please, like, no, like when they're really reluctant to that idea of you doing that, because you hear a lot of these stories off the internet. And it's like, you're going to meet some guy or person we don't know just randomly off the internet, and we don't really know where they're from.
Anybody, literally.
It really could. And that's happened before. Well, when we get to that, we'll talk about some catfish stories, at least on my end, that I had gone through, that I'm like, what is going on? I can understand why people would not want to do the internet, but yeah, no, I totally get it.
Yeah, it was so basically there is a lot of stigma attached, and I think especially when you come from like an Arab household, a Desi household, it's very sort of frowned upon. And I think probably a little bit more if you're from an Arab household, mainly because like the Rishta aunties and all these amazing connections that the Desi community has. We don't really have that. I don't know about like you, but
for sure. We don't really have that. No. Yeah. And I didn't really know about Rishta aunties until like I was on Reddit, and I'm like, oh, like that's
what's a Rishta auntie?
A Rishta auntie. I'm like, I want one. But then I also get like, honestly, I do get a lot of like maybe the pressures that come from these Rishta aunties and like the issues that like the Desi community has with them too. Yeah. But I can also see like the opportunities that come from that kind of thing, that I guess like the Arab community, at least on my end, we don't really have access to that kind of thing.
No, we don't, unfortunately. But yeah, it was, it's been a bit of, it was a bit of a struggle in terms of like getting my mum on board. I think my dad was kind of like put to the sideline. My mum sort of wore the trousers in that situation, and she sort of took over. But it took a while. And for me personally, I made the mistake of not telling my parents when I first got on, and I think that was a massive mistake because I didn't, because I knew they wouldn't be on board, and it would take ages to get them on board. But I feel like they could have sort of supported me, especially my mum, and which she later on did, and she sort of guided me and stuff. But I think it's really, really important to get you folks involved, even if you think like they are going to be blatantly saying absolutely no. Just tell them like, look, as an adult, decision that I've made, and I would really like you to be part of it. I know that you don't like it, but it's sort of like, this is
my only avenue.
Exactly.
I think it's just that they're, again, like the unknown aspect to it as well. It's like they, what they know, from their own lived experience is like, when we talk about the internet, it's just like a very dangerous place for anybody. Yeah. And like, there's movies out there like the Craigslist Killer, or like these movies, I met the guy online and I got killed by him. So like, there's all of these like type of, like media stuff of how like online is portrayed. And not to say that doesn't exist, right? We're not out here saying like, don't be careful. Obviously be careful and like make sure that you check your sources and who you're talking to.
100%.
But it's understandable sort of like where your parents, and maybe the reluctance that would come from your parents wanting to be down to the idea of you trying, the online route. Like for me personally, can't hide stuff from my mom. I don't know. There's been times I really wanted to, you know, and I'm like, I'm just going to hide this from my mom and I'll tell her after the fact, but I just can't do it. So like, I'm just going to be straight up with her, you know, kind of like what you mentioned. And I just kind of was just like, hey mother, so I'm going to try and see if I can find a husband. And since you have no connections and we don't really have a message nearby and I don't really have friends that could connect me with someone, I think I'll give this a shot, you know, even though I had very low expectations. I was like, let me just put myself out there in some aspect.
How did she react? What did she say?
I know, right? Yeah, I was going to say, so she initially was just like, that's a bit shady, like weird. But at the same time, like she could understand the struggle. Like she understands the struggle a lot of like first gen Arabs or just in general, people of color, Muslims have in terms of like trying to like search for a partner. So she was just like, yeah, just go ahead and like give it a shot and, you know, see if anything comes out of it. But given the stories that happened after that and the experiences that I'd gone through, now she's at this point where she's like, you know what, how about we just wait to see if he knocks on the door? Let's just go back to traditional. This is insane.
Oh gosh,
but
quite disheartening, isn't it? But tell me, like, how long were you on the apps for?
I was on it, like, honestly, on and off for about a year or so. On and like more off than on. You know, when you like go on, you have an experience and you're like, ooh,
I've had enough of
I
this.
need a break.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're like, I need a break from this. Let me go back to single life. It's much better. But yeah, I did it for on and off for about a year or so. And then I think with the pandemic, it's been kind of it's been a dilemma, right? Because like I'm kind of in this point where I'm like, I need to meet someone more organically, quote unquote. What does that even mean? I don't know, because I don't know how you meet someone organically these days. But like, how do I meet someone more within, you know, where I work, or maybe the types of like different activities that I do outside of work? But given the pandemic, I'm in this dilemma of like, maybe I need to go back and put myself out there on the internet. But now there's that issue with like the pandemic though, right? There's a lot of people bored. There are people not that serious. They're just trying to hang out or socialize. So it's like it's like a lot more filtering you have to do now with the internet than I think before the pandemic, when people are a little bit more busy, that kind of thing. So it's been a struggle, you know? It's been like trying to figure that out. So on and off about a year. But what about you?
So I was on it for about 2.5 years, like you, an on and off type of thing, because I was a chicken. It took me forever to get on these apps. And because like none of my close girlfriends really, they all got married the traditional way and, you know, like met people organically or however you want to put it. They didn't really have any sort of guidance or help. I mean, they were just like, look, you need to get on it. You need to get on it. You know, this is the only way that you're going to meet your husband.
A lot of them it's like meeting friends. For some of them they're like,
to be fair, I mean, friends. I'm sure you can meet friends if that's what you're after. But I was on it for about 2.5 years, on and off. I'd have an experience and I'd be like, okay, well,
mental health,
mental health, exactly. Let's reel it back in a little bit, you know, have a little break and get back on it. But I stopped using it right before the pandemic. So no, actually right before the whole lockdown situation. Yes. So we had just heard about the pandemic and, you know, this virus, it was spreading, it was on the news, and you know, everything was just like crazy. And I just sort of thought, right, okay, there's going to be a hell of a lot of people who are going to be off work, who are going to be at home, who are not going to have anything to do. They're just going to be sat there bored out of their minds, talking to loads of people, multiple people at the same time, and they're just going to be doing it for the sake of it. They're not going to be looking for anything serious. And that's when I thought, right, okay, I'm going to deactivate my account. That's it. I'm out of the I'm
out, guys. I check out. I'm done.
Exactly. Like, you know, check out completely. So that's basically that was my experience of it.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, so speaking of our experiences, because it sounds like we both have been through a lot, it seems, as we've been trying to navigate like this space that we don't really have many people to, you know, go and seek advice from or get tips about.
And the thing is, people who are on it, they may not necessarily tell other people, even close people like friends or family,
because
that they're on it. Exactly. They're too embarrassed. They're like, oh my God, like I can't find anybody. There's something wrong with me. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. You just need to, the more we talk about it, the less of a stigma it will become. So, right, Sophia, back to you. You have to like tell us about your first experience, you know, talking and actually meeting somebody.
Ooh, okay. Let me just backtrack and just tell you my first ever experience that I had on the internet. I
Yes.
keep saying the internet, but I mean online marriage platform, whatever.
Right.
So when I actually started the whole like wanting to make a profile, I was just like you, I was freaking out. I was kind of scared, to be honest, because I was like, people are going to see my face and they're going to judge me on my face, and they're going to, what if people, no one likes me? What if I don't get any, like, what if like all these things, right? So you really kind of, you have to have a bit of thick skin, in my own opinion. First advice, you
100%.
have to have a bit of thick skin when you decide to put yourself out there through these like online platforms, because unfortunately it's a very superficial space. Like people are going to judge you on the way you look. So if you can't take it, like people like, like I've gotten a lot of weird comments about like, you're so ugly and all these like weird things, which is
Oh
so
my God.
disrespectful.
I'm looking at you right now. You are
Oh my God,
absolutely
stop.
stunning. You're a natural
You're so
beauty.
sweet.
Oh my God.
You're
How dare
so
they?
sweet. I know. So it's really interesting, like when that kind of stuff happens. So you kind of have to like,
Yeah.
you come to grow a lot of thick skin. But
Absolutely. And you've got to realize, like, look, you're not going to be that person who's going to be attracted to every single
everybody,
human being out there. It's not going to happen.
and that's just human nature, right? You're not attracted
Absolutely.
to everybody, and then just it's just about finding people who find you attractive, and just finding yourself attractive. You just got to validate yourself.
Definitely.
But so I made the profile. It took me forever to figure out what kind of pictures to put up, because I'm like, what if people like screenshot this, or like, you have all these like weird anal like questions that go on in your head. So anyways, I'm like, yalla bismillah, let's just see what happens. SubhanAllah, like within a day or so, I matched with this really cool guy, right?
Wow.
So this dude, he's Arab, right? He kind of hits a lot of like the initial things that I find that are important. Right. I'm like, cool, honest dude. He seems like he goes out and he's a bit social. He's not too much like at the house. Like he seems like a normal dude, right? But you have to take into consideration, this was the first time I'd ever matched with someone. I don't know how this online platform works. I don't know how you interact with someone through these online platforms. So I'm taking it like I'm building a friendship, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Where you're kind of just like talking to them, getting to know them, but not so much talking about the important questions about like, what are you looking for in a partner? What kind of person are you? When do you see yourself getting married, right? Like those really important questions you ask someone when you're trying to assess and suss out if they're serious, as well as if they're potential for you or whatever.
Yes.
So this guy, just kind of started talking to him as a friend. But like, obviously I had intentions. I was like serious, right? Of trying to get to know him. But I just didn't know how to navigate it. So I'm like, right? So like, I was like, I think if I just keep getting to know him, right, and learn stuff about him, I should be fine. The one thing though, is this guy matched with me living in Northern California, but he actually went to school on the other side of the country of the United States. So he was like all the way on the East Coast.
Wow.
I didn't want to get into that like long distance stuff. That's a whole ball game on its own. But I was like, you know what? Like maybe it's nasib, maybe, I don't know, you give like reasons, like maybe there's a reason I matched with this person, blah, blah, blah. So anyways, he was like on the other side of the country, like a week or so of us, talking. And so, we were just talking every single day.
Wow.
I was texting this guy every single day from morning till night, like all throughout the day. Now, when someone tells you that there's no way you'll get attached to someone emotionally when you're talking to them constantly, they're lying to you. Number one, there's no way your emotions and your feelings aren't going to start coming into play when you're constantly talking to someone like to that.
You'll catch feelings one way or another. It will just happen.
For sure. Yeah. And I think that was my first mistake. I think the first mistake was I took it more of as a friendship. Right. And the frequency as to how much I was speaking to him initially without sussing out important things about him. Yeah. Like, what if we're not compatible? What if he never wants to get married? Like, I didn't even know if he wanted to get married or not. You know what I mean? And like,
just
we were
assume,
just talking
just
about
because he's
stuff.
on that app, he's gonna.
Yes. Yeah. And that's what happens, I think, initially, is that you assume that because they're on this app, they must be serious, right? And I think that's like, it just makes sense. Like, it's like 1 and 2. It's not like a stupid idea to come up with, like, wow, you're on a marriage app to find a partner. Like, this must be a crazy concept. Yeah. So I think I took it as like, he's on here and he matched with me because he sees me as potential. That's what I thought, right? And then the frequency in which I was talking to him at, obviously my feelings were coming into play. And so my logic was decreasing. So like, there was a lot of like, I was just like, we were talking about things that like literally were just pointless. Like we were talking about weather, we were talking about his trips to like God knows where, what he's eating, what he did that day. It's just like pointless stuff that like, if there is no future with this person, it's like I'm just preparing myself for heartache. You feel me?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I was just preparing myself for that. So the other issue that kind of came up with this guy, so aside from the fact that the way that it kind of started was very low key, very like friendship, not so serious. The other issue is that I didn't really know what he looked like. And it's crazy
What?
when I tell people, I know, listen to this. It's crazy when I tell people that the first dude that I ever spoke to, I spoke to him for 6 months. Okay. Spoke to this guy for 6 months, texted nonstop for months. Okay. Obviously, between like months 4 to 6, I was starting to freak out because I'm like, yo, I kind of like this guy, but I don't know like if he likes me too. And I don't even know if he's like serious about getting married. And if he is, like when is that gonna happen? When is he gonna meet me, meet my family? Like, right, like all these things that like are the next steps that you think about in this kind of process. So yeah, but it's interesting because I tell people I spoke to this guy for 6 months, but I've actually never seen. I don't even know what he looks like.
Wait, does he not have Did he not have a profile?
He did. No, so he had obviously had pictures, right? I only know him based on like 3 or 4 pictures I've ever seen.
Right.
So insane. So I only seen him that way. I've only spoke to him on the phone like 2 or 3 times. Never. And it's interesting. I don't know why it never came to mind. Like it never came to mind to FaceTime this guy. I don't know why. It was weird. So like I literally just would phone call him. We were just talking on the phone, and it was like 1 or 2 times. It was a lot of this, just a lot of chit chat, a lot of chit chat, pointless chit chatting for no reason. But yeah, I got to like month 4, and I was like, oh my God, I feel like I need to move this forward. Like I like this guy. Like this is weird. I'm getting.
Did he not initiate anything? Like
nothing.
Hey,
no.
Let's do.
That's another issue when it's like not a 2-way street. Where like you're initiating a lot of stuff and he's not reciprocating, or at least doing also some kind of initiating too as well. Yeah. So I was taking a lot of the lead, and I don't have an issue with taking lead. I think it's fine when a woman decides to take a step and like decide things for her own future and ask a guy, where's your mind at? There's no issue with that. But it's an issue when you're doing it all the time. That's a problem when like he's not reciprocating it back. So again, my first time ever, none of this was clicking together until like months afterwards. So I called him up, and it was like I was about to have a panic attack, I guess you could say, close to one, because I was like 4 months in, I'm talking to this guy every single day. We basically told each other we like each other. Is he going to come and visit me? Right? Like I need him to come see my parents, because my mother was like, obviously I was keeping my mother in the loop through it all. And God bless her. I don't know how she kept up,
saying like, look, when is he coming? Like what's happening?
Yes. So she was telling me like, when is he coming? Like, when are we going to see this guy? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. Like he was really like doing a master's program or something. So like he was like always at school or whatever. And so like he only could come like during breaks or whatever. So I basically put him in like a ultimatum situation, because I was ending up in an issue where I would hint at, when am I going to see you, or when I see you, we can definitely do that kind of stuff or whatever, like hang out and things like that. So I would hint at things and not be so direct. And I realized like, I think I need to be direct with this guy. So I called him up one day, and I basically was like, hey man, like it's been great really getting to know you. Obviously we both have mutual likeness to each other. I think we probably both see each other as potential future spouses. We've been talking for a long time now. You know a lot about me. I just feel like we should take the next step forward and maybe see if we can plan a time you can come and just visit my family. And I can see you in person, because I hadn't seen him at that point. And wow, dude, talk about what happens next. So he basically, I thought this was it's a very mature, normal conversation
you would have with someone. You kind of put it all out on the table, and you told him how it is.
Yeah. So he basically paused. He pauses for a second. Talk about suspense. And then he was like,
is this over the phone?
Over the phone. It wasn't even FaceTime. I don't know why I didn't FaceTime. Again, people, you need a FaceTime. Please FaceTime people when you first meet them. So he basically was like, I don't know what you think I can do to just jump on a plane and come see you whenever you think is okay. Like he basically took offense to me making that kind of request. He's like, do you think it would be okay with my mother to tell her that I'm just gonna get on a plane and just meet some random person that I met off the internet? And I was like, wait, so you think it's okay for me? Like, I'm a woman, like, honestly, like, okay, we want to talk about like who has it more difficult. Like, obviously as a woman, it would be a lot more risky for me to take
Going to
myself
see
on
a
a plane to go see
stranger.
you. Yeah, to go meet you. Like, obviously I can't do that. So then I'm like, how about like, I was also like proposing, I'm more than happy to like split half and help you with payments and whatever that you need to like
Wow.
the costs and stuff too. Yeah. And then he kind of just flipped out and he was like, you know what, it was really great getting to know you, but honestly, we're just not compatible. And like the fact that you think that I can just jump on a plane to come see you is just crazy right now for me. Like, I'm in school, like I'm all this and that. So that's kind of when I got my first like kind of slap in the face where I was like, wow, I need to not be so trusty. Like, I can't just go in here trusting people are serious about things and serious about getting to know you and actually trying to like find a partner and like kind of just really like, you know, you have people come in there that are just kind of wasting your time. So that's like what a time waster is right there. That is
Absolutely.
basically what time waster is right over there. Yeah.
And the fact that he basically blew out, he
Mm-hmm.
got all up in your face just like that.
It's a lot.
As soon as you talk to him about, hey, look, let's meet up, let's actually go to the second step rather than just, talking and texting for hours and days on end with no sort of destination. The fact that he kind of lost it shows that he wasn't serious all along, unfortunately. Because if he was serious, the fact that you even said to him, look, I don't mind splitting the cost in half, like not many people would do that. And the fact that you showed like, look, I'm
willing to work with you, you know what I mean? Like, I'm willing to make this happen in some aspect, but you just got to work with me. And so like when you blew up like that, I'm like, wow, I just dodged a massive bullet, but my God, I went in too much, right? I spoke for too long. I was too much into the pointless conversations and the chit-chatting that you end up getting emotionally attached. Like, there's no way around it. Like, it's going to happen if you're constantly talking to someone for that long.
Especially as a beginner, I think when you've got
oh my God, yeah,
this to any other experience, you just wouldn't do that in real life rather than
never,
to the apps and speaking to these people. You kind of like your standards start to go down.
Oh my God, yes, that does actually happen for sure.
You don't realize it. It's only afterwards you think, my God, like what was I thinking? Unreal,
absolutely. It's insane. Yeah, so I mean, if anything, like that experience in itself, it taught me, first of all, you have to have a wall. Not everyone deserves to know everything about you when you first meet them, right? I feel like when we find someone attractive and we start talking to them, whatever it might be, and you're like, wow, they're giving me attention, you feel like, wow, I have to open up more so that we can build like this strong connection.
Show them who I am, sort of thing.
Yeah, they need to know who I am right now. And I feel like people need to earn that. Like, let that person earn that kind of respect from you and that kind of trust from you for you to be able to like be open with them in that kind of capacity. And I think that doesn't happen until you see them in person. And some people, obviously it takes longer than others, but I think them making the effort is the most important part. So if someone is making that effort to really try to get to know you, then that's when you start to say like, okay, I can put my walls down a bit and we can like, you can actually get to know who I actually am. But the way that I did it was very messy. That's why chit-chatting, when people are like, just chit-chat, just talk to him or her and like, just get to know her, see how she's, maybe just like keep sliding in her DMs, just try and like, make sure that she knows you're there and like, just talk to her and like, whatever. And then maybe she'll, give you a chance or something like that. Like, I feel like that's all pointless. You know what I mean? I feel like you got to get
to meet
right.
up.
It's a lot of like pointless effort and a lot of like very preventable heartache that you can get, you get out of it too as well. Because like, okay, cool. You want to talk to someone, get to know them as friends, but like at the same time, shaitan is number 3, especially when we're talking about opposite genders. A lot of times there's always like that third shaitan is right there. And so like especially for women too, you need to keep that guard up. You know what I mean? Not everyone gets that emotional type of attachment that you kind of just give on the first hand. So yeah. So if anything, this taught me to definitely keep the walls up. It taught me to FaceTime ASAP very fast. You need to FaceTime someone, make sure that you're actually attracted to them. And like, what their demeanor, there's a lot of things that are different from like when you're texting someone to when you're FaceTiming them and when you see them in person. And I've been through all 3 of those experiences, and nothing will ever replace an in-person meetup, obviously. But when you don't have that opportunity, the next best thing is you need to FaceTiming them, right? Because you see their facial expressions, you see the way that they answer and respond.
You sort of pick up on their vibe as well.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's ways that you can actually still be able to like pick up on people's vibes through the camera and like through seeing them. But just texting, like, come on, no. You need to take that a step further and at least FaceTime them if you're serious about them and you really want to see how things are going. And if they don't actually decide they want to FaceTime with you and they're just like giving you
There's a
reasons
reason
not
for
to,
that.
that's what we call catfish. They trying to catfish you. But yeah, so those are really important. I feel like that was probably more like the biggest lessons that I learned was like the first experience. But obviously there's more lessons that came about as I continued with
That's the thing. I think it's probably the same for you as well, and many other people out there. The more experiences you have, the more things you actually learn.
Yeah, the more red flags you see, you know.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy, but
yeah,
gosh, so bullet dodged basically.
I know. But Taz, tell me, how was like maybe your first experience or maybe like one of the crazier experiences that you had dealt with?
I don't really remember very well.
Good for you.
To be honest.
Yeah.
In terms of like who the first person was that I talked to, I talked to a lot of people.
Yeah.
A lot of it's kind of crazy, like looking on Reddit and looking at some of the forums and stuff, and the like the people's stories about apps, and especially the guys who are like, look, create this profile on this app.
Yeah.
And I'm just sort of like sat there, nobody's matching with me. I'm matching with all these people, nobody's matching back. But
saturation, man, the saturation on these apps, you know?
Yeah. I don't know if it's the same for you, but like as a female, as soon as you literally create your profile, you are overwhelmed by the amount of and the matches and like instant matches as well.
Oh my God, please get those out of there. Get those out.
So there was a massive pool of people that I spoke to when I first sort of joined. But
it's a lot of filtering online. That's the thing that people don't also take into consideration. You feel, especially I think as females, I think this is the thing that's kind of a general thing, that women get a lot more likes than men do. So like women, you're just sitting there and you're filtering like crazy. It's a lot of filtering. And you feel like, okay, you might feel like really cool when you're like, wow, 100 people like me, but like out of the 100,
really, though?
Yeah, do they really?
They just like out there on their phone and just swiping.
They're like, maybe one of them will match with me or something like that. Yeah, but there's a lot of filtering that happens, and I think that's one of the things that makes this whole process very exhausting. Is like you filter through a lot to get maybe a couple of people you like take it to the next step with, or you like continue talking with.
It takes time. It's a process, but
it really does.
I don't really remember who the first person that I ever spoke to on the app. Obviously it didn't work out because
you're like, we're still single. Yeah.
But, I do remember the first person that I actually spoke to and met up in
oh my God, yeah. Let me hear your first meetup. Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah, where do I start? So basically this guy matched me and we kind of got talking, as you do, just like all the standard
basic stuff.
Basic stuff, yeah. I didn't really ask the serious questions. That's again another mistake, because I think that needs to, you need
very important.
It needs to happen. It needs to take place. Simple as that. It has to happen. As I said, I was new, so inexperienced and all that. But so we got talking. He was an Arab around the same age as I was as well. He was an Arab, but he was a different type of Arab.
Yeah, I feel you. Yeah.
So he seemed okay, he seemed normal. He had, the standard pictures, I had the standard pictures, what have you. Got talking. He was a young professional like myself. He was really into his career and all the rest of it.
Like important basic stuffs were there.
Yeah. All that sort of basic stuff. But so we got to a point where he basically asked me out for a coffee. He was like, look, this is going really well. Let's meet up. Oh my God, I was a bag of nerves. I was so nervous.
Yeah. It is always scary when you first meet someone. No, I totally get you.
I was so nervous because I hadn't done this at all. I was like, oh my God, what if he's a serial?
It's like your first time, right? You're like first time, because we're not used to it. We're not used to like just going out with guys and talking about, are we gonna have a future together? Like, I don't know.
It's like, so what do you talk about? Like, do you dive right in there? What do you
right?
Like, what do you do? Where do you cross the line? Like, when is it acceptable to talk about, hey, like, how do you see us in 5 years' time? Like, do you know? Cringe?
Yeah, 100%. It's so cringe. Yeah.
So he said, look, we can meet up whenever you want. So I proposed somewhere sort of relatively in an area that I know. Yeah,
good. Very important, women. Listen, very important. It's definitely really
absolutely
important.
You've got to know where you are going, ladies and gents.
And gents too. Yeah, that's important
guys
too.
Get catfish too. Let's not, This isn't just about us women nattering. The guys,
Yeah.
you know, some of the stories that I'm hearing,
It's insane.
absolutely crazy. But yeah, always meet up somewhere where you are very familiar with the space, and you know, like, look, if I need to exit or get out or something, this is the way I do it. You've got to have, you know, that at the back of your head.
Plan. Yeah.
Absolutely, a plan. Yeah. So I told one of my close girlfriends, I had chose, you know, a really nice outfit and everything, like, you know, dressing up like I'm going to meet the Queen or something. It was crazy. So we met up in this cafe. It was really dark. It was around winter time, and around, like, in the UK, in the winter time, like around 4 or 5 p.m. it could get really, really dark. And I'm talking about
same here.
Pitch black. Is it the same?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same. Yeah, like in the winter around like 4:30, it's like pretty dark. It's pretty dark.
You can't see a thing.
No, not at all.
So I was walking up, and so this cafe had internal seats and outdoor seating as well. It was like a nice outdoor seating area, but it wasn't the best lit, so I couldn't really see very well. And I just sort of saw this figure that was sat on the chair in a corner outside. And I walked up to him and I was like, excuse me. Oh God. I was like, excuse me, do you know where this place is?
It turned out to be him?
Yeah, because I wasn't sure. It didn't look like him. It did not look like his pictures. Like, it was the same person, but they were very good pictures.
Yeah.
But they weren't, you know how some people take pictures but they look different in real life?
Yeah, I get you. That's a normal thing.
Yeah. So and then I was like, oh, are you, you know, so and so? He's like, yeah. And I was like, oh yeah, it's me, you know, Taz here.
Oh shoot, I'm gonna piss my pants. What's going on? Okay. Yeah.
So we went in, and he was like, how are you? Blah blah blah, talking as you do. We sat down, we had a coffee. It was just like pleasantries. It wasn't nothing deep. We were just talking about, hey, how was your day? How was work?
Right.
We had it was on a Saturday, I think we met up, and obviously we had, you know, work the previous week. And then after that, we decided the cafe was closing, so we decided to go to a nearby dessert place, and it was again in an area that I knew very well, and it was within walking proximity. So I was like, okay, fine. So we sat down, and I just felt the shift, you know, in him, like this change, you know.
Like a positive or like a more scary?
Negative. It wasn't a very good vibe. One thing I did notice as well, as we got up and we walked to the dessert place, he was a lot shorter than what he said he was.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Why is that a thing? Oh yeah, I had the same issue too before. Yeah.
Your height is not a problem, but the problem is if you're gonna lie. If you're gonna lie about anything, it's a problem. Okay.
Yeah, it's your insecurity about your height is the issue. Absolutely. It's not that you're short.
If he said like, I'm this height, I don't think it would have bothered me as much. I would have been like, you know what? He seems like a cool person. Let's get to you. But it's the fact that you like, guys and girls, if you lie about anything, don't.
Come on, buddy. Why? You're gonna be found out. They're gonna find out when you meet them, you know? Like, just
don't do it.
Yeah.
So we sat down, and the waiter came up, and basically she asked us what we wanted to order with the menus or whatever. I ordered, and then he made a comment, and it was very, very, I don't know how I took it then, but looking back now, it's like definite no. He was like, oh, just order the cheapest thing on the menu. I was like, yeah. I was like, but he said it in a jokey, laughy way. It didn't clock, to be honest with you, because I was like, oh, okay. And then just sort of like, haha, like, was that a joke? I'm not sure. Let's just move on.
Lord.
I know. Yeah. Oh, girl, it went downhill from there.
Oh, Lord. Oh, God. So then what ended up happening?
This disgusting dessert thing came. I only asked for a drink because I wasn't hungry. You know, when you're nervous, you just.
Oh my God! Yeah, you can't eat a thing. Yeah, I'm like that.
I was like, I'll order this soda slash. It was like a soda cream type of.
Oh, that sounds kind of good. You're like, I don't even. It's gross.
It was so gross. I was like, oh, God, no.
Yeah.
He ordered this massive platter, and he was going all in. You know.
Did he even like try to share it with you at all?
Oh. Well, no, nothing like that. He
okay,
did,
that's in red flags. Sharing is caring.
Waitress. He did try and do that though.
What?
Yeah.
He tried. He was eyeing the waitress. Is that what you said?
He was looking at her backside. He was checking her out from top to bottom, and it wasn't even like in a sly way. It was like a blatant, like.
That is
like
that
one
is,
of those.
That is probably one of the worst experience. That's bad. That's bad.
I was mortified. I was very, very angry. I didn't say anything. No, actually, I think I did. I said to him, do you want me to ask her out for you or something?
You're kidding me. Oh my God. I love that girl queen over here. Yes.
Honestly, no, because it got to a point where it was like blatantly disrespectful. Like if that's the type of man you are or the type of person you are, then why are you like wasting my time, sort of thing?
Right. Yeah.
So
you can't lower your gaze.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, whatever. So I cut it short. I was like, look, I'm gonna dip, and then I left. But then after that was like constant messages from him trying to initiate, conversations. I completely ignored it. And then I would post stories on my social media about what I'm doing and whatever. And he would look at them. And it's like, but we're not talking. Why are you, do you know what I mean? Like, why are you looking?
Yeah, why are you messaging? Why are you looking at my story? Yeah.
Exactly, like what? It's just.
Yeah.
So
it's wild. Yeah.
Yeah. So he tried to call me while I was at work, of all things. And basically he was like pretending like nothing happened, like, hey, what's up? Do you want to link up again? Blah, blah, blah. I was like, are you mad?
Are you not getting the message that I don't want anything to do with you?
Yeah, I was like, look, no, it's not going to happen. Like, you were very, very disrespectful and we seem very, very different. I don't see this happening or going anywhere, like, look, best of luck to you, sort of thing. And then after that I blocked him. But funny thing is, that wasn't the end of the story, because
of course it never is with these types of dudes, though. These types of people.
It had nothing to do with the apps, funnily enough, because I blocked him. I'm sure he blocked me back. Whatever. There was no correspondence whatsoever. But then I seen him pop up as a friend suggestion on Facebook, and I was like, ooh, this person looks vaguely familiar. And I'm talking about years down the line.
That's insane.
Yeah, it was like, I'm sure it was like a year and a half down the line, or a couple of years, something along those lines. It's like, what? So crazy. I clicked on his profile, just clicked to have a look to make sure it was really the person that I thought it was. And it's like, we have a mutual friend.
Oh my God.
I was like, hey, mutual friend. And I clicked on it, and the mutual friend is a girl that I used to go to uni with. We weren't very close, but we just had it. You know what it's like.
Yeah. You usually like drift apart after. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So we had it for years. So I messaged her. I was like, hey, Sallam, blah, blah, blah. I was like, hey, so do you know this person? Because it came up as a friend suggestion. And she was like, yeah, that's my future brother-in-law.
You're kidding.
No.
What?
I'm not. Oh my God, that just
how did that even happen? What the heck? That's insane.
I don't even know. She was like, how do you know?
Oh my God.
I was like,
I don't know.
I didn't say anything. I was just
good.
Like, ignored that message. I was like, I ain't gonna break no marriage. I ain't gonna be,
Yeah, you're like, I'm not gonna be involved in that. No. I'm so happy I dodged that completely. Like, good luck to her,
Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh my God.
It's a very small world. I mean, it seems big, but honestly, like,
it is pretty small.
These apps don't mess people over, because it will come back and haunt you somehow.
Be careful.
Like, if I was a spiteful person, I would message her. I'd be like, this is what happened. This is the type of person he is, and it could have potentially ruined like his engagement with this, her sister, or what have you. So yeah, just be careful how you treat people out there.
Yeah, and especially like if it turned out you were really close to that mutual friend, that would have been really awkward, like if he turned out you see him at one day at like you get invited to the wedding, hypothetically, you're like, oh my God, that would be crazy. So crazy. Wow, that is quite the story.
I'm sure we know each other somewhere.
I know, right? I'm sure we've seen each other in passing somewhere. I'm not sure. Oh my God, that is quite the story. That is quite the experience. Like, wow, that's just like a 180 right there. It just tells you how small the world and the internet is, honestly.
It does, yeah. And what I've learned from that is basically like, just be very careful. And something that you mentioned before as well, try not to have your hopes up and not be so open.
Yeah.
Just, just go in with the best of intentions, but expect absolutely nothing. Honestly, that's the best way to kind of go about it, isn't it? Just to have no expectations, but you've got to have standards, because you can't be letting people disrespect you or mistreat you in a certain,
or waste your time.
That's another one. Time is precious. We're not getting any younger.
Mm-hmm.
People, waste your time. But
Yeah.
so yeah, my
That
first.
is quite the interesting story. That's a really, really good one. I think honestly, yeah, like a lot of things you mentioned, it teaches you a lot about yourself, and you're like, again, your trust levels like are like it's a lot makes it a lot more difficult for people to just take it, like it's not something that you can just give. It's like a lot harder for people to be able to attain as you go through these kind of
Yeah,
experiences.
you shouldn't automatically trust people just like that, just because they are on a marriage app. Being on a marriage app doesn't mean anything, guys. It doesn't mean nothing.
It really,
It really doesn't.
yeah.
Just because you're
Mm-mm.
on there doesn't mean that you are not already married. You don't, have
Oh
no.
my God. Yeah, let me stop you right there and actually just interject just another story
Please do.
about that. So, yeah. So the thing that we're talking about, right? Like, don't just trust a profile and assume that someone's being like 100% trustworthy and honest with what they're saying in their profile. So one of the more earlier experiences, again, when I kind of was just starting out on this app, and this guy was probably like one of the few that I actually met up in person. So when you get honestly, like when we talk about like online apps, I don't know, in my own experience, I've realized it's really difficult to like get to the point where you see them in person.
Mm.
And especially when you're meeting people, like if you're really open to say nationally or all around the country or something, like it makes it a lot more difficult when someone's long distance and you're trying to like plan, when are we going to meet? Where are we going to meet? And it's like the financial investment that they have to put into to come and see you or you to see them. So this person luckily was around the area. I tried really hard to like not get into the long distance, especially after the first experience I had where this person was not willing to like come and see me. So I'm like, okay, let me just look locally, right? Like driving distance and see if I can find someone. So I did end up matching with this guy. Again, had a pretty okay profile. Luckily, he didn't lie about his height. So I was really appreciative of that. There's a lot of other things he lied about. So
Oh,
his profile was like, he was single, never married.
right.
And he said that he was studying to get like a PhD in something. I've forgotten what, but it was like a PhD program that he was currently in. And that religion is very important to him, right? So like all these like things, right? So I'm just saying like the points that I remembered, which are the ones that I'll tell you they kind of turned out to be lies. So I matched with this guy and he had like these basic qualities that you're looking for. And so I'm like, wow, he was really close. Let me just meet up with him in person. So I took the lead and I'm like, you want to just meet up? I feel like, it'd be a lot easier for us to like get to know each other that way. And meeting up in person, again, like I said, is the best. It's like the ideal way of like getting to know someone is meeting up with them and seeing them in person. So I meet up with him in person. We meet up at a donut shop. Not the most ideal place for me to go to because I'm not really a donut person, but I was like, it's like a low key, it's not too expensive. I don't know, personally for me, when I first meet someone, especially the first couple of hangouts or meetings or whatever, I go to places where it's like chill. It's not too much of an investment.
Yeah.
I'm not someone like, how like sometimes people are like, oh no, go to places that are really extravagant and expensive.
We're going to have a 7-course meal. And
yeah. And I'm like, no, that's too much in the very beginning when you're first, it's too much pressure.
Absolutely. And if you want a dip, it could be.
Oh my God, right?
Like, I'm out of here. Sort of.
Yeah, like I got my donut. Thank you so much. I'm peace out now. And yeah, I feel like too, like just personally, like as a woman and especially like within culture, usually like men feel like very obligated to pay for you. Like they feel so pressured to do that. Personally, I don't have an issue with me paying. It just becomes a thing like with your story where they're like, pick the cheapest thing. And I'm like, okay, all right, that's an issue with me. Like, no, that's a little weird. It's a red flag. But anyway, yeah, we ended up meeting up at a donut shop. And you know what? It was a pleasant first hangout. It was very normal. It was like a couple of hours. It wasn't too much. It wasn't too serious, but it was also serious in the fact that I started asking more of the serious questions, right? Like, what are you looking for in a partner? Do you have any deal breakers that you think are really important to mention? Like, how do you see yourself with your partner, or when do you see yourself getting married? Like those types of questions. But it also was like more just general, getting like an understanding of him as a person and sort of like what his hobbies are, what he likes to do on his off time. So like that was all fine. It wasn't until the second meeting, which would happen like a week or so afterwards, and we met up at a different donut shop, interestingly enough.
What is it?
I don't know. I have no idea. I think this dude just really liked donuts. So then we ended up at a different donut shop. And this one was where the red flags were just popping out like left and right. So the first thing that was an issue was his idea of like how he views women. Now, in my own, the way that he had portrayed it on the app was that he's looking for a woman that he sees as an equal, and a woman that like together they are able to make decisions together and all these things. And like even through text when I first was talking to him, he was hinting at a lot of these things of like, yeah, I want to have someone that's like 100%, you know, in it with me, someone that like her and I build things together. Like I don't see gender roles being a thing. I mean, some people, that's something they want and that's fine, but I'm not looking for that. So like I wouldn't have wasted my time if he told me like, actually, I'm looking for someone that fits more the norm or the understanding of that.
You wouldn't want to waste your time or other people's time if that's not
100%. But he wasn't honest about it, right? And so the way that I knew he wasn't honest, it's really not about what they're saying. It's reading between the lines sometimes.
Yeah,
it's not about them saying directly, it's reading between the lines. So he talked about, you know, I told him, I was like, you know, what kind of role do you see woman and man being when it comes to marriage, right? Like that's kind of a serious question to ask, but it was an important one because I was getting vibes from him that he was kind of misogynistic. So I'm like, let me just assess this. So
what made you, let's just backtrack a little, what gave you those sort of
I mean, it was right. It was like, I mean, the way that he was speaking about his like mother and like the fact that, you know, he's like, you know, it was good that she kind of gave up her career and decided to just raise the kids because like, I mean, I don't know. She's like, I wasn't really expecting my dad to do that. It was more like something that made sense for her to do, quote unquote. He's like, it made sense for my mother to quit everything and to take care of us. And I'm like, that's a little bit of a question mark. Okay. Yeah. So then I asked him, I was just like, yeah. So like, what do you see the role for like a man and a woman, you know, when it comes to marriage, right? And he straight up told me this, I don't even know if it's a metaphor or analogy. It makes no sense. But he was like, you know what? I'm going to answer this with like a metaphor. He was like, you know, when we're talking about, you know, sailing a boat, right? When we sail a boat or a boat is being sailed. He said boat like 15 times in the first like 2 seconds. He's like, when we're sailing a boat, how many people are sailing that boat? Is it, do you have 2 people sailing the boat or is there 1 person sailing the boat? I'm like, you can have 2 people sail the boat. He's like, no. I mean, can you have 2 people making decisions? Like when there's like what direction to go with the boat? I'm like, yeah, you can. So like, you see what I mean? His analogy wasn't making sense, but I knew what he was trying to get at, right? It's reading between the lines. And what he was trying to say is that he feels that the man is like the head or the one that is sailing the boat.
Yeah.
And so that is an issue for me, right? Like for me personally, and based on his profile and what he was sending me through text messages, is it sounded like he wanted someone that equally were making decisions together. Now, again, some people, they like the more gender role, more like, you know, everyone knows their own position, right? But when you don't like that, and that's not something you're looking for, that's basically wasting my time.
Yeah.
So I didn't really say anything to that because I'm also kind of like you, like in the moment, I'm not able to process as much.
No, it's
like, I can't really tell you, like I'm not very responsive in terms of like how I actually feel until a couple of days after. I'm like, wait, I need to tell you how I actually feel. This is how I actually feel. So it takes me like a moment to like process.
Yeah.
But honestly, like in the moment, it still was a red flag. Like I was off. Like my intuition was like, oh, this guy's a bit off. But it gets worse, right?
Oh my Lord.
You thought we hit the peak, buddies.
Analogy.
I know, it gets worse than the analogy. We get towards the end. So I've talked to this guy we've been hanging out for like 3 hours now. Okay. And it's getting dark outside and I'm scared, right? At this point, I'm like, I need to get home. My mom's probably worried about me, all these kind of things. So I'm like, I need to tidy this up. We got to get going. Yeah. So I tried to tie it up. And then I was like, you know what? This has been, you know, great getting to know you, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, I kind of have to like get going.
Yeah.
And he was like, he just kind of was silent for like a moment, which was really suspenseful. And I'm like, why are you silent? So it was weird. He was like, I have to tell you something before you leave. And I'm like, what? Oh. Like, what do you have to tell me? I'm like, dude, I need to go. So I'm like, okay, this must be something really urgent on his mind that he needs to, you know, let me know about. So I'm like, okay, yeah, like, what's up? Like, what's up? And he was like, so I feel like I need to say this. I just was really nervous to say anything before, but I feel like we are really vibing with each other, which by the way, I don't know how he was thinking we were vibing. I was not vibing at all. And he basically was like, I need to so you know how I mentioned before that he had on his profile, single, never married?
Yes.
He basically told me he'd been living, you know, back home. Like he was one of those people that like was living back home, was born and raised there. And then he came here for school.
Right.
So luckily he was actually in school for a PhD program.
So he
That
didn't
wasn't
know
the
about
problem.
that.
But
Okay.
he was actually, the issue that came up, and that was like, okay, this is never going to ever progress, was that he told me that he was married before
What?
and that he was still in the process of divorce. Like,
Okay.
he was like still going through the process of divorcing this woman that he was married to back home. And I was shook.
Oh
I
my.
was like, I
How,
wouldn't,
how,
okay,
how did
honestly,
you feel in that moment? Like, what was your reaction when he
I
said
was
that?
like, oh my God, I was just like, dude, this guy's lying to me. Like, this is just insane. And so, like, I really was like, I need to get out of here. Honestly, I was like, I need to get out of here. That's where my
Yeah.
mind was at.
God,
I
just
didn't even
run
want
off.
to know about the story. I didn't want to know what was going on. I didn't have any
It was
curiosity
more
to
than
understand.
enough. What he said was
Yeah,
more than enough for you. You just needed to run.
exactly. I just wanted to like get out of there as soon as
Wow.
possible. So he told me that he was like, I'm so sorry for kind of keeping this a secret, but it's something that it's really difficult for me to talk about and whatever. And he was like, so he just kept rambling. He was rambling at this point. I was trying to wait for a moment for me to be like, thank you for sharing that, but I need to leave.
Yeah.
But he didn't really allow that. So he kind of went on a tangent for about 10 minutes. And within that tangent, he was saying that the reason he had left her had to do with her wanting to have a child, like way sooner than his timeline. And I'm like,
Wow.
that's interesting. That is so interesting that you're willing to just drop someone because they happen to like want a child a bit closer than your timeline. I mean, you don't talk things out. You don't try and find like a middle ground. You just divorce someone.
Talking about it with his wife and come in with a mutual decision. He decided that he's going to pretend that he's going to be the so-called single person when he isn't really, and
Exactly.
talk to multiple women and
Mhm.
lie to them.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
So
that makes
basically,
perfect sense.
yeah, that all adds up. That makes a lot of sense. And I think that also brings up the point again, like we mentioned, don't trust any profile that comes up. I've heard stories of married men and women hop onto these apps and say they're single, never married or whatever. And they literally have like kids and they're still married and living in the house of their husband. And they're just trying to have like a good time on these apps or something.
Yeah.
So that's I think the really like reserve part that a lot of people maybe have with trying these apps out because there's not so much um you can't really validate a lot of this information. A lot of this information is firsthand, and the only person that really knows that information is the person who's making the profile. So when he said that, I was like, my God. And then when he told me the reason, I'm like, my God, like you just made that even worse. I'm like, you couldn't get worse than that. So he was just like, I really hope that this doesn't kind of he tried to end it with like, I hope this isn't a reason you decide to cut things off. And I hope
I
this
hope
wasn't
the
too much
truth
of a
doesn't ruin this beautiful relationship.
this beautiful donut that we had together. Like, just get out of here. So he was just like, yeah, he was like, I hope that this doesn't really ruin, us going forward. And I'm so sorry for like bringing this up and throwing it at you, 20 minutes before you had to leave. And I'm like, I mean, no, thanks for being honest and whatever. And then honestly, like once I got home, I just texted him and I'm not the ghosting type. I don't know how to ghost people.
Good.
I just texted him like, thank you so much for your time. It was really great getting to know you. I appreciate your honesty, but I just feel like we're in different places and we're not as compatible as I may have initially thought. And then he took offense to that, by the way. He was like, what happened? What is going on? I'm confused. I thought we were doing really well. I'm like, what is wrong with you? So that one was like one of the first type of experiences where it's not so much a catfish because the person is real, like it's the person behind the screen. All their information is like not lining up with each other. There's shadiness in there. So yeah, if anything, again, guys, make sure that to not trust whatever people write. You need to see them in person, or at least like try and find other ways to validate the information that they're throwing.
Yeah, even if you do see them in person, it
doesn't
obviously
mean much
it can
either.
eradicate a lot of things because that's
Yeah.
what they look like, and
Yeah.
you pick up on things, but it doesn't tell you the history of that person. It doesn't tell you all the nitty-gritty bits about them. So they kind of lie to you about stuff like, and I've experienced this where I met up with somebody, that's a whole new story, another story, and he turned out to be married.
Oh my God. Yeah, and that's common. That's very
Spoken
common.
to people as well, and they turned out to be married. There's people who are like, oh, I'm in the middle of getting a divorce. Guys, that doesn't mean nothing because they could use that as an excuse. I think what your guy, I call him your guy, but that guy, what he was trying to do is probably get you to catch feelings for him and then slowly accept the fact that actually he's still married. And then once you do that, he could turn around and be like, well, actually, I've decided I don't, she's a poor girl. I don't want to brand her as a divorcee back home. She's not going to get married again. By the way, I've decided that I'm not going to divorce her. Do you know what I mean? Like that's how
that happens. That does happen. Yeah. Where they're like, actually, I realized the bigger thing. And I feel like I need to go back to my wife. Like, I feel like you've taught me to, you got me there. You helped me through this process to realize I actually love my wife. Like, it's just like, yeah, that stuff happens.
It's crazy. There's so many crazy things happening out there.
Yeah.
But the main thing is, don't trust everything that you are told or that you read on people's profiles. Just have your guard up. I know it seems like
kind of like contradicting, because it's like, put yourself out there, but also have your guard up. It's like, be open, but also you got to be a bit cautious in terms of how you go about these types of interactions. Yeah. And like, I feel like a lot of times too, it's like, I don't know, like, because like a lot of these experiences you go through, it's like the only thing you can base it off of is your own lived experience. And so like, if through your experience, you've had pleasant interactions with strangers and people that have come in your life, you feel like, oh, the internet might not be bad, right? You're like, I'm sure like people are nice and whatever, but
you make assumptions
surprised
on those experiences. Yeah.
Don't make sense. I feel like the biggest thing is like, don't make assumptions and don't have expectations. Like, if you go in there, no expectations and no assumptions, like assuming things or filling in gaps about someone, then you're setting yourself up for like not too much heartache or too much confusion down the line. But yeah, it's weird. Like, I feel like sometimes you have to go through these weird, hard experiences for you to come and realize like, oh my God, what am I doing? This isn't good.
It does definitely give you a minute to kind of pause and process things and look at the the bigger picture and realize, well, actually, I can't just be trusting of anybody. You just can't. You have to kind of be careful, and you have to look after yourself as well. And it's not just women, it's men as well. I've heard of stories where women are catfishing guys. They've got
that's common too.
They're married, they've got a partner, and they catfish them, or they actually make these real profiles and their pictures, and they'll meet up with them, but it's to get money out of them, even though they've got, and the partners are in on it. It's crazy. I just think, oh my God, like how does this happen and take place? And I see all these stories on Facebook and other platforms about all these Muslim communities trying to basically raise awareness about all the messed up stuff that's happening out there.
There's a lot of that, man.
The community's talking about it. This is really becoming a huge problem.
It's a huge problem. And I feel like there's a bigger conversation that needs to be had as to like why within the Muslim community, at least internationally, honestly, at this point, like there's such an issue with people being able, like people within their 20s, their 30s or whatever, just single people in general, being able to like find a partner, like to the point where we've gotten to the point where like we have to go through to like the internet, like the fact that we can't go to masajids or like communities within our areas. If you have one, right, to be able to like seek out a partner, right? Like, why don't we have those avenues within masajids? Like, why isn't that something that is accessible to people, right, that are single and trying to, continue this path of trying to find someone? I mean, like that's a whole other ball game as to like what's up with like our Muslim community and why there's so many of these issues, right? Like even on the Reddit page, like my God, some of the stories you hear, like what is going on Muslim community? It's insane.
Really scary.
It is really scary. And I feel like it's like everyone kind of has to like figure it out on their own and like, suss things out on their own. And it's like, why don't we have avenues where we're helping and guiding single Muslims towards trying to find people and trying to find their partner?
Help people, tell them what to expect, tell them like, look, this person that you have caught feelings for could potentially be X, Y, and Z. Don't try not to catch feet. I know it's really difficult because it's
really hard. Yeah.
It really is. I think it goes for both men and women because I see the stories on Reddit where the guys are like trying hard not to catch feelings. I've been talking to this girl for X amount of weeks and I've caught feelings and it's not working out. It is really, really difficult not to catch feelings because it's in our human nature.
It's a natural human trait. Yeah.
And the thing is, when you're talking to somebody online or on the apps or whatever, it's like it's a piece of puzzle that's not finished. Obviously, it's got all these missing pieces, and your imagination is literally fitting in all these little other bits that are missing. So it's like what you want in a person, you're kind of like portraying on to that person. If
Mhm.
that makes any sense.
No, that makes sense. No,
That's not who they
100%.
are.
Right, right. It's like your expectations are being projected, and sort of your ideas about that person are being projected onto them of what you ideally think they are, but then they're not actually that. They're just an
Well,
imagination. You're just imagining, you're just making imaginations in your head,
oh,
or like thoughts in your head that aren't true.
you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, just be careful. Be
You
careful.
know, and it actually brings up a big point, honestly, though, with that, right? Where your mind kind of fills in the gaps about someone. That's the thing when I'm talking about why texting isn't ideal at all when you're trying to get to know someone. Like again, I've seen some post up on the Reddit thread where like people are like, "Oh, I've been texting this guy for 7 months." I mean, my own experience, my first experience,
Mhm.
where I text this guy for like 6 months, and I
Yeah.
like my mind was filling in so many gaps about him, and so many of like, oh, he must be this and that and that. And you're kind of imagining what your life is with them and all these kind of things.
Yeah.
But then again, right? Like you call them and you say, hey man, like, so you want to move this forward or what? And it's like completely shatters
Mhm.
your sort of ideal imagination of what you thought this person was. It's just an imagination, an idea, like this picture you had in your head that wasn't actually true. So that's what I mean by like, you really don't want to spend a lot of time chit chatting over text and just like, oh, I'm just going to keep on talking and just maybe, down the line, he or she will say something and we'll get the ball rolling. But it's like, that just puts you in such a bad position. For one, you're going to sit there and start, dreaming about this person, imagining what your life might be, filling in the gaps about them, right? And then the other thing, it's like none of it is certain. Like it's all really unknown as well when you're just like kind of just sitting there. We're just like, we're just having fun. We're friends.
And they could be
You know what I mean?
talking and having the same conversation with 10, 20
That's
people.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's another thing as
Like the ones that annoy me too. Like I remember in the past when I get to know someone and it seems like you meet them a couple times, but
well.
then you like like then you like end up like breaking things off with them, and then all of a sudden you hear like I had an issue one time where I had a friend talk to someone that I talked to before, and I'm
Oh,
like, sweetie, let me just help you out right now until you drop him now. Don't even go down that road,
don't waste
girl.
your time, boo boo.
Yeah, yeah, don't waste your time, boo boo. It's a waste of time.
Wow.
But
Oh,
yeah, it's just like interesting where like you can spend so much time with someone, but you don't really know them,
no, you
you
don't.
know?
You
And
don't.
texting gives you this weird illusion that you do. Like it's
You feel
weird. Like
so devastated afterwards when it doesn't work
it's
out. You're
really
like, oh my
sad.
God, I've
Yeah.
invested energy and time
Hmm.
to speak to you and to open up to you so you can see a glimpse of, who I am.
Yeah, of who I am. Yeah.
And you just sort of
But
shattered all that. And it's
yeah.
all, you feel like it's all, you've wasted it. You've wasted your
Hmm.
time basically. And,
Hmm.
all these emotions and efforts has gone to pot
For no
basically.
reason. Yeah. It just chit chat, just like it gets you nowhere. And it's just like, yeah, that's why it's really important that once you vibe with someone, first few text messages here and there, first day or so, I say right after that, initiate a video, like a video call.
Definitely.
Like
100%.
someone initiate it, women or men, someone needs to initiate the video call. You need to hop on a call, have a conversation with them. You don't have to jump in the first second you meet with them and say, what are you looking for in a partner?
How
You
many
can
kids
get
do you
to know
want?
them. Yeah, how many kids do you want right now? But you can gauge and understand the kind of person they are through just, basic questions about who they are. You know what I mean? And
Mm.
then kind of like really try and gauge how serious they are about marriage and what they actually want. Like I got into a lot of positions where men didn't really know what they want. Like they're on an app to get married, but they don't know what they want. You ask them what they want, they're like, I don't know. That's a really good question. I don't know the answer to. And I'm like, well, what are you doing on the app? That
Mm.
means you don't know yourself or what's
They've not
important
figured
to
it
you.
out. They need time to kind of assess and figure out what they want.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I think like hopping on a video call is extremely important, especially during this time when maybe you can't meet up with
Yeah.
someone. Like that's the biggest thing that we're trying to drive here is that you really want to make sure that you obviously have your guard up, but you also want to, um, you know, keep your emotions in check and try and move things along, right? Like you don't want to be spending 6 months texting someone and
Mm.
it's going nowhere, right? You want to have some sort of a game plan with this person if they are serious about wanting to get to know you, right? And especially with like the online platform, it's so saturated. So
Mm.
they could be talking to like three or four other people.
Absolutely.
And obviously you'll never know, but I feel like you'll gauge it through their effort, right? If they're not giving too much effort, then that's a sign in itself.
Mm.
But like if they're serious about you, they'll put in that effort. If someone is serious about wanting to get to know you, you won't have to question. so much. You won't have so much doubt about like, is he into me or is she into me or whatever.
That's the thing. If you're asking yourself that question, if you've got that
That's the
doubt,
problem.
then it's a problem. It's a red
That's
flag.
the issue
I
right
think
there. Yeah.
another thing, the main thing is as well, one of the main important things is to let them know that you have your parents on board. You have family
Yes.
members on board, and supporting you through this. You're not doing this solo to put the fear of Allah in them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, let them know.
Let them know, absolutely. Let them know, like, look, I'm talking to you, but X, Y, and Z, people are involved in this. They need to know that somebody's involved.
100%.
Also,
Yeah.
if they're really serious about you, they will actually want to get you involved with their parents and, for example, speak to their siblings or speak to their mother or yeah.
100%. I think like I get it with some families, like I get it sometimes, like when you're searching for someone, some people might have the issue with their parents of like, oh, they're going to be so reluctant to this person because so and so. But I think like just like putting it out there, like just having your parents somewhat on board, like they don't have to agree with what you're doing. And a lot of times they don't agree, like we mentioned in the very beginning. It's like they're just like, it's just the unknown of it all, right? And like just like what they know about online, it's just shady stuff, and so they're scared about like you going into that, something happening. But like having them somewhat on board, at least being aware of the idea that you're doing this, I think adds a bit of like, I guess like at least like you can be a little bit more assured that like you're taking that step. And when you mention it to someone like, hey, my parents know that I'm trying to find a partner through this avenue, it really like makes them scared, believe it or not. There's been times where like I'll tell someone like, hey, my parents actually know that I'm on the internet trying to find someone, and my mom knows that I'm meeting you today. Oh my God. They start like, oh my God. They're like, okay, I have to actually be serious now. And I have to like, if I'm not into this girl, I need to tell her I'm not into her. So I think like, like mentioning that and like involving parents as much as you can is also really important. So it's a good thing you mentioned that.
Oh no, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you do have to kind of like be careful a little bit when they're, well, especially if it's, sorry to say, especially when it's a guy and he's like, well, I haven't told my parents, or I'm not sure how my parents might feel about, for example, you being Arab. And it's like, well, if that's an issue, you feel like you can't convince your parents different ethnicities or whatever, then I'm sorry, we shouldn't be talking. Simple as that. You know what I mean?
Because like if you don't have that figured out and what you're okay with, like why are you dragging me into, like why are you even open to talking to me if that's a problem for you? You know what I mean?
I've heard of stories where boy and girl talk, and then they're like, one of the parents is like, no, it's not going to happen, and then he just stops her. And I'm talking about a really long time of them knowing each other, at least a year or a couple of years, and it's like you've just wasted 2 years.
Yeah, that's so sad.
And for them to just drop you like that. So you need to get that kind of stuff figured out beforehand. You get involved with, anybody of a different.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Like no basic things that like you're okay with, and like, how much you're willing to put up with your parents too, right? Like sometimes I know parents want you to get married a certain way, right? They want you to pick someone a certain way, but your ideal is like, no, that doesn't fit what I'm looking for. I want someone like this, and that might not fit together. You need to come to like either an understanding with your parents alone without me in your issues. And then if you got that figured out, you can start looking for whatever maybe is more ideally what you're okay with. But like when I feel so bad for people that get stuck right in the middle of that kind of drama, prospects that are like, they're just like, they think this person's really cool, but then now they have family problems because she's Arab or whatever it might be. And it's just like, why are we having like prevent that from happening? It's figure your crap out, go figure it out, and then come back to me. You know what I mean? I had an issue actually, because I'm talking about this. I had a problem because I don't wear hijab. So my biggest one was like the fact that I don't wear hijab, and some guys and their mothers having an issue with the fact that I don't wear it.
Right.
And I'm like, sweetie, like if that is something you want, like I'm all for it. I will applaud you left and right. But why are you talking to me? I don't wear it, And so a lot of times it would end up in these very uncomfortable conversations of them trying to convince me that I need to wear it. And like, if I don't wear it, all of these things, if I don't wear it, they can't keep talking to me. And I'm like, you can go, leave, like, bye. I don't even want to deal with you anyway.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important that you figure out what's important to you. Also figure out if you and your parents are on the same page, if that's important to you. If your parents' opinion about who you bring into the family is important, figure that out. Like have a conversation with your parents. Hey, this is what we're okay with, what we're not okay with, if that's whatever it is. And then search only within those criteria. Like don't drag someone into like your drama and your family issues if that's not something that you figured out on your own.
I think certain people think that they could potentially mold a person and change them over time.
And that's so bad.
I mean, change naturally happens and progresses anyway, because as human beings,
no, for sure. Yeah.
Like what I want now from my life or potential or whatever is not the same as, say, 10 years ago, right?
100%. Yeah. Right.
But yeah, some people do have that idea of like, yeah, I'm just gonna, I really like them, I vibe with them, I'm gonna, let's get married, and then, like, for example, the hijab situation, I'm gonna convince her to wear it X amount of years, and it's like, well, that person is an adult. The choice whether to wear it or not, or whether to, I don't know, it could be anything. Doesn't have to be hijab. It could be anything. It could be smoking. It could be whatever.
Literally anything. Yeah.
If that person, as an adult, has decided this is what they want to do now, you need to go off on that basis. You can't have these high expectations of changing them, because that could potentially be the reason why you divorce, like 5-10 years down the line. Do you know what I mean? So,
dude, if you don't like it, that's fine. Like, that's okay. But like, go find something that fits what you're really looking for. Ideally, don't come in here trying to change someone to be more in the mold of what you want them to be. But yeah, I mean, like, honestly, that just, comes to point. It's like, there's a lot of these things that can be prevented. A lot of like these issues and drama and like whatever it might be that comes up, with like the search process, and like why it's so daunting for a lot of people, and why it's like so dramatic and all these issues. It's like, try and take preventative measures so that you don't end up in a problem like that. And I feel like a lot of the things we mentioned, hopefully is beneficial in some way, and it helps y'all in some aspect, inshallah. Because I feel like through our hard experiences, we hope that the lessons we've learned, we can give them to y'all so that it can help you guys through the search process yourself.
100%, inshallah. I mean, this is why we're here, and we'll do our best to help even one person. I mean, let's think about something positive here. The other day I had a really, really sweet message on YouTube on one of the videos, and I was like, oh my God, thank you so much. That's so sweet. And it's like little things like that. And, there's quite a lot of negativity as well, but we'll ignore that.
I know. I hope this wasn't too negative, but I feel like if anything, I hope it makes you more, if you decide to if you're on the online route, or you decide to, take that step forward, that this maybe provides you a little bit of guidance or some tips to keep in consideration, like as you continue in that process. Cause it's tough out there, man. It's tough out there. It's pandemic, so be easy on yourself, take it easy. And like, may God write, what's best for you all.
Inshallah, just, have the best of intentions. Like we said, be careful, have the best of intentions. Don't expect, anything. Just go in, just tawakkal ala Allah, and just, you know what I mean? Just, But inshallah, hopefully what we've talked about here will be inkling of, some kind of help out there to whoever who's thinking of getting on these apps, or who's already perhaps on the apps and is a little bit overwhelmed and confused. But I mean, like, we've set up emails, we've set up the Reddit page as well. So just get in touch. Inshallah, I'll leave all these in the description box below. So you can get in touch. And brothers out there, I've had a couple of brothers reach out, and they were like, okay, I might be interested potentially, down the line. So please, we don't want this to be some kind of sex war issue. It's not men against women or vice versa. This is literally an open platform for anybody to, have their say and get involved. So just reach out, and inshallah we'll look into that in the future.
Oh my God, get the guy perspective. That would be great. Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm sure those guys, our brothers have some really, really funny stories out there, and we'd really be interested to hear them and hopefully benefit from them, inshallah. But thank you ever so much, guys. And thank you, Sophia. Inshallah, we'll hear from you again soon.
This was such a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're most welcome. So you take care, guys. All the best. Sallam.